Hello, welcome back once again. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you the technique of anticipation. So let us first understand the concept of anticipation. Anticipation implies the comprehension strategy that helps in activating prior knowledge of the learners as well as build curiosity in the minds of the learners about the reading comprehension passage. So most of the time we see in schools and colleges that the assessment of reading comprehension is restricted only to the scoring of marks, and most of the if the option is given between a particular question and reading comprehension passage, students they opt for reading comprehension passage because it is easy to score marks in reading comprehension. So therefore, in the process they don't acquire the skill in reading, and of course they do not develop an interest in reading. And so therefore most of the time we find that the present generation is more inclined towards the technological devices in the acquisition of information, or rather it is more than it is not acquisition of information, it is more like copying and pasting that information in their own words. So this is what is lacking in the present generation. So the present generation should be actually they have to be motivated to read books and to learn from the books, not only in terms of acquiring information, but also in terms of developing the vocabulary and, of course, the construction of sentences and using a particular word in a particular context. So, and of course, giving rise to developing the creativity and the curiosity in the process. So I would say that anticipation is actually a very important technique that can be developed by the teachers if the teacher takes an extra effort in the class by giving more importance to developing a skill rather than simply giving marks for the examination. So I would say in my previous video, I have said that the prediction is the core of reading comprehension, and prediction is a skill that needs to be acquired by all. So one of the techniques to develop prediction is anticipation, and anticipation and as a skill can be actually taught to the learners. So let us see how this can be done. So here I have an example for you. I have taken a sentence from the first from a paragraph from a passage, and this is the first sentence of the first paragraph. In ancient times, people tried to explain the world around them based on what they saw. Now, as a teacher, I could say I could ask the students, to think what could be the rest of the passage or what could be the theme of the writer. So, if I say this, I am also encouraging them to tap the background information. But there might be students who may not be knowing the process of tapping the background information. So, therefore, in order to help or to scaffold them or to guide them in the process of tapping the background information, as a teacher, I can give them several options, and they have to choose from the options that is given to them. So the passage deals with difference in the style of observation between the ancient and the modern people, absence of knowledge of the ancient people in drawing conclusions, a brief explanation of the process of logical conclusions, the importance of logical conclusions, and discusses the steps involved in logical conclusions. So here I have given several options. Now, as a reader, I need to find out which is the option that is most appropriate in this particular context, or which option identifies the theme of the writer, the theme of the passage. Now here, first I have to find out, analyze each one of the observation, each of the options, and also try and negate those options that is not appropriate in the particular context. So in the process, I'm tapping my background knowledge, and I'm also trying to question myself, question my own understanding of the options that is given to me. So in a way, I am involving in two most important skills or two most important strategies, that is tapping background information and also in the process of self-questioning. So now let us find out how, as a reader, the reader can self-question his understanding of the options. Difference in the style of observation between the ancient and the modern people. So as a reader, I would think that the writer will definitely not talk only about the ancient and the difference in observation between ancient and modern people. He would like to say something more than that. So what is more, that it could be so many other things that he would like to say about the modern people or about the process of observation. So absence of knowledge of the ancient people in drawing conclusions, that is also not a possible option, because again, he is not going to talk about the absence of knowledge of the ancient people in drawing conclusions. As I said in the previous option also, he wants to say, tell the readers something more about the process of observation, a brief explanation of the process of logical conclusions. There is a possibility that the writer is giving a brief explanation of the process of logical conclusions. The importance of logical conclusions, this is also possible, and discusses the steps involved in logical conclusions. Again, just merely discussing the steps, cannot be the theme of the passage. He would definitely have to talk about the process of logical conclusion, and then he would, talk about discuss the different steps. So first he will give an explanation of the process of logical conclusion and then talk about the steps. So therefore, the most possible, or the most logical, the theme of the passage could be a brief explanation of the process of logical conclusions. So having said this, let us now move on to another example. So in the second example, I have taken this sentence from in between this paragraph or in between the passage. So this is the first sentence of the third paragraph of the passage. Now, by the time we understand that the reader has already read the first two paragraphs, so he has some sort of idea about what the writer is trying to communicate. So when he reads the third sentence of the first sentence of the third paragraph, and is asked to draw conclusion as to what the paragraph could be about, it becomes slightly easier for the readers to guess, what could be the paragraph about. So nevertheless, the teacher can give, the options to the reader. The first option could be the 5 steps in the scientific method begin by questioning and observation and end with a conclusion based on evidence. The second option could be it reminds you to treat your first conclusion as one of several possible conclusions. And the third option would be it helps you to avoid non-scientific thinking. Now, from these three options, the reader is supposed to anticipate the best option or the connecting option, to the first sentence of the third paragraph. So here, I'm trying to develop the skill of connecting the theme or connecting the ideas, of the readers. So here again, the reader has to use his logical understanding of the passage, and this logical understanding can be developed once the reader is able to identify the keyword from the sentence that is taken from the paragraph itself. So the keyword is a scientific method. So once the reader has identified the keyword, now the reader has to find out, what it is, which class that keyword belongs to. So we understand the keyword belongs to the class of a noun. So if it belongs to the noun, so the writer is definitely not going to repeat the keyword again and again or immediately in the next sentence itself. So the first option, there is a mention of scientific method, which is a repetition of the keyword. So definitely this option can be negated, or the reader will disagree with this particular option. Now the second option, it reminds you to treat your first conclusion as one of several possible conclusions. The writer has not spoken about which should be the first conclusion, and the second and the third has not dealt with it yet. And he has only simply said that, it helps you to avoid drawing incorrect conclusion. So therefore, this cannot be the second, sentence of the paragraph. So the remaining sentence, it helps you to avoid non-scientific thinking. This option is appropriate because you are talking about what the scientific method helps you to do, and then you're saying the scientific method helps you to avoid non-scientific thinking. So this is a possible linking of ideas, and therefore you would consider the third option as the correct option. In this way, the process of anticipation can continue. Now let us move on to the next aspect, that is the anticipation guide. So as a teacher, I have to use the anticipation guide. What is the anticipation guide? What we have been doing in this examples, that is called as the anticipation guide, whereby you actually train the learners in anticipating the content with the help of by giving him certain clues and giving him certain hints, rather than vaguely asking him to anticipate the content. So I would say the anticipation guide is actually a strategy that can be used by the teacher in order to activate the prior knowledge of the learner and also to build the curiosity of the learners. And also, it consists of statements about key concepts or themes, and it helps in building background information, identifying and connecting themes, and also setting a purpose for reading. So, this is how the anticipation guide should look like. The teacher can put it in the form of a table and club it as or mention it as before reading, what the student agrees with, what the student disagrees with. That is the first example that we dealt with. And once the student has read at least two paragraphs, then we can again have a set of anticipatory anticipation exercises, that is after reading the passage or during the process of reading, we can use this anticipation exercises in order to test the learner's understanding of the passage and also develop their eagerness to read about the passage or develop an interest in reading the passage. So, having understood the concept of anticipation, I would like to thank all of you for your patient listening.